So anyway, like you guys asked for a story, and I'm gonna go ahead and tell you a story, real quick. Essentially, what the hell happened yesterday? Well, I was waking up. No, actually, I was not even waking up. I was sleeping. I was supposed to wake up at 7 a.m. to go ahead and go to work, and then all of a sudden, my mom knocks on my door, and I'm like, "What is happening?" They are supposed to go on a trip, right? Um, So she's like, hey, we're not going anymore. I'm like, what? Why not? Right? She's like, because Facundo, our dog, one of her dogs, we have two, beat a frog. And I think he's gonna die. That's what she said. She said that she didn't say that she thought that he was going to die. But I remember saying, like, listening to that, and I scream, "What?" And I just like stand the fuck up from my bed, and I grab my cell phone and I just walk over, like, right. I legit just like woke up, and I'm like, "Did I hear that right?" And she's like, "Yeah." I don't like, she's going insane about it. I'm not very good at impressions, right? And exactly explaining the way she was behaving, right? But she was like, "Yeah, I don't know what happened. It was almost like inevitable, because like we opened the door for them to go to the garage for a second, and then all of a sudden it was there." And I was like, "But like, how does that happen? The garage, the front yard, does not have anything in which like a frog could grow or could ever survive there." So I'm like, "Okay, let me see what's going on." And then the first thing that I see is that there's like some white on this part, and I almost passed out. Well, it turns out that one of the home remedies is to put milk and lemon on the dog's mouth. But I'm like, nobody told me that, so I almost passed the fuck out. I'm like, okay, so this dog is dying in my home, and I don't know what the fuck to do. So I see that my mom is like walking around the house, and she doesn't know what the fuck is happening, and she's calling people. She's calling my brother. She's calling my auntie. I'm like, so what's the plan? And she's like, I'm calling a vet so that somebody can come home and check on it. I'm like, Mom, it's 5 a.m. in the morning. Nobody's gonna answer her phone call, right? Nobody's gonna come through. She's like, okay, but we gotta give it a shot. And I'm like, this is not how things are gonna work out. Meanwhile, my dad is holding the dog and petting it. And I'm like, okay, so like both of these actions are kind of useless at the moment. I need to do something. So I look up on Google, beds open 24/7, and I find it. I find a bed. I find two. One is very like close, but kind of like 30 minutes away from us, and one is 45 minutes away from us. So I called the bed, right? The one that was 30 minutes away from us, and they answer. I'm like, okay, so here's the situation, and I explain, like, and they tell me like how long has it been? And like, Mom, how long has it been that the dog did this? And she was like, 30 minutes. And then I almost passed out again, because I'm like, 30 minutes, and this dog is like, what the fuck? What, right? Like, what do we do? And it's been 30 minutes, and you only woke me up till now also. So I'm like, I'm freaking the fuck out. Um, and then I like, the vet starts telling me like, we don't do visits. You need to come through. I'm like, okay, we'll find a way to get there. What do I do now? He's like, grab a bunch of water and put it in his mouth, like as much as you can for 5 minutes, so that the poison goes away. I'm like, okay, we can do that. So I go ahead and tell my dad, you need to do this. And he's grabbing milk again and lemon. And I'm like, who told you to do that, right? And then he's like, oh, your aunt told me. And I'm like, why? Like, I don't know if that works or not, but the vet is telling me to do something else. So can you please grab the water and put it on the dog's mouth? He's like, okay. And then he does it, and then he grabs the milk again. And I'm like, oh my fucking God. Like, like, I don't know what to do with these people, right? Like, everything is going south. And I've started to feel the pressure. So I'm like, okay, Mom, what are we gonna do? And she's calling my aunt again. I'm like, but why? And she's like, because we need like more advice. And I'm like, no, the vet told me, be here as soon as possible and put water on the dog's mouth. And I'm like, if you're gonna call my auntie, please ask for somebody to come through with a car to get us to the vet. And it was like, this is super stressful, and it was, we start to feel the pressure. And the words that get echoed into my mind is, the dog is dying by my mom as soon as I wake up. Like those are the first words that I hear in like 20 seconds, right? So I'm okay. All right. So this is like again going south and my mom is making phone calls. The fuck. So I grab my cell phone and I call an Uber XL. So like the idea was to grab the dog and put it in the back of the car with myself included, so that the person with the Uber doesn't get mad at us because we have like we're gonna cause a mess in the middle of the car, right? But there are no cars available. Then when I tell my mom like, hey, did you like tell anybody to come pick us up? She's like, no, nobody's able to. I'm like, okay, you're gonna drive. Because she can drive, we have a car. And she's like, but I don't want to get lost. And I'm like, you're not gonna get lost. It's 30 minutes away from here. We gotta do this. And she's like, no, you have to come with me. You have to give me directions. And I took a moment, I took a few seconds to grab my mom, for a few seconds. And I looked at her and I told her, Mom, honestly, I'm not ready to do this. Because the thing that I had in my mind was, okay, this my pet is gonna die in the middle of the car in the streets. And I'm like, after a few seconds, just like a fraction of a second, I say that, I'm like, but I'm gonna do it. So I'm like, okay, get on the fucking car. I'm gonna get on the car. We get the dog in the car, and he starts moving like he's in pain and he's in having convulsions, stuff like that. I'm like, oh fuck. Okay, so I'm looking at everything and everything is looking blurry, but I'm like, okay, I'm the one who called the vet. I'm the one who got the hospital. I'm the one who has the instructions. Let me go ahead and do this shit, right? So I start telling my mom, okay, this is where you have to go. Meanwhile, my dad, is in the back with the dog. I'm like, okay, so the problem here is my number one problem is my dad, is my father. You're gonna be like, wait, isn't the number one problem, the dog? And I'm like, no, I'm explaining myself. Both my parents cannot make one coherent thought or one coherent person when they are going through a lot of pressure. I've been through similar situations with them, especially when I was a kid. Like even with small situations like getting a parking ticket or something, my dad just yells and my mom doesn't know what to do, so that she freaks out. So I look at my mom and she's looking like this, right? Like at every single car around her, and she's okay, so she's hyperventilating, and she's the one driving, and she doesn't know where she's going. So I'm like, okay, well, like, fuck me, I guess. Mom, I start like blocking the noise from the back of the car because I know that my dad is gonna yell in like a few seconds. I'm like, Mom, listen to my voice only. Do not focus on what's happening there. They have it covered, even though they didn't. I was like, they have it covered. It'll be okay. Just focus on what I'm doing, what I'm saying. Take a left here, or go straight, or like take a right or whatever. And then like I figured like a way, right? Whenever I was silent, whenever we have to go straight, and my mom could hear my dad, I started singing. So whatever song I could come up with, whatever like little melody that I could come up with, I was like do 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 do, right, blah blah blah, like whatever could get like the noise from my dad blocked. And like my mom listen, okay, so you have to go straight. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Like, nah. And whatever, like every time, making sure that she was calm, she was collected. Because otherwise, we could crash, we could die, or we could be stuck forever, and then we wouldn't have made it in time. So I'm like, okay, just listen to me, right? So and then I came up with another system, as apart from like singing, even though it sounds silly, it actually worked. Which is, the next system was, tell people how long it's gonna take us to get there, because it was only 30 minutes. So I was like, okay, we are 20 minutes away. We're 50 minutes away. We are 10 minutes away. And little by little, they were like, okay, we're gonna make it. Until we made it to like, I've said before that I live close to San Jose, right? San Jose is the capital city of Costa Rica, and that's where the hospital is. So I'm like, we make it to San Jose and the streets are packed, right? So I'm like, okay, everything is fine. We're gonna make it through this incredible traffic, but we're gonna make it. And then my dad starts screaming way louder than I could speak. Give me a second. And then I look, and he's like, he's not moving, he's not moving. I'm my mom in the middle of the fucking traffic does the exorcism shit, the girl from the exorcist, with her neck like this. And I'm like, no, right? Because we almost fucking crashed. So I'm like, no, look, straightforward, make sure that we don't die here, like the three of us, and make sure that we don't crash, because otherwise this is not gonna be worth it. And she fucking put the brakes, and we almost crashed with the person in the front. And I'm like, looking at my dad, dude, calm down. Put your hand in his chest. Is the heart still beating? And he's like, yes, okay, we keep going. We're 10 minutes away. Just honestly, calm down. We cannot have more panic attacks. We have enough with everything that's going on. Please keep moving, right? So he calms down. He just grabs the dog, because the father loves that dog with his life, right? So we kept going straight, and we finally make it to the hospital. But here's the thing, like, you see my hair right now, it is actually okay as it is. When I wake the fuck up, I don't look like this. Like, everything is all over the place. Not only that, but I didn't sleep very well, so I had red eyes, right? So like, and I'm stepping forward to the bed, and I have a Nirvana shirt on that is like very, very old, and tight shorts on, and no shoes. But I'm the first one to get the fuck out of the car. So I get off, and I start ringing on the door of the bed, right? It's a hospital. It's for emergencies and shit. And they take like cop dogs and stuff like that. So I'm the first one to get up, and I'm waiting for them to get up, but I just go ahead and knock on the door, and do the ringing shit that doors have that I did not know. the doorbell. Thank you. Thank you, brain. So I'm okay. So I'm knocking. I'm doing the doorbell. 1, nobody comes out. I'm like, okay, well, now it's time to panic again. 2, and then 3, and then somebody's, gets the head out, and then they look at me and they go like this, right? And they're, like, again, imagine me freaking the fuck out, nobody behind me, knocking a bed's door. And he's like, I don't have any change. And I'm like, bitch, I don't need change. I need you to open the fuck up. And because, yeah, of course I look like a hobo. So I'm like, no, like, what I need is to take care of my dog. And I point behind me, there's no dog, because my dad is having a panic attack and cannot get off the car. So I'm like, okay, come here. Like, my mom helps him, and he finally, like, moves. And like, they see that there's a dog, and okay, like, there's a patient. He's not trying to get change or money. He's actually, like, for real here, because he needs help. And like, yeah, it's an emergency. It's 5 a.m. I just woke up. I'm not gonna appear here with a suit on, right? So I'm like, okay. So they open the door, they take the dog, and then they take him to emergencies. And they, like, we wait there for like 30 minutes or something. And then, yeah, I'm like, they apologize to me for thinking that I'm a homeless man. And then, like, my brother arrives, and like, we all sit there and waiting. And I start calling my bosses, and I'm like, hey, by the way, so I'm at the hospital right now. They're like, what happened to you? And I'm like, nothing to me. I'm at a pet's hospital. So I'm gonna be late, so do not expect me to be there. So I'm like, I hang out. I hang on. Whatever. I don't know how to call it. Whatever. I hang up. That's the one. And then they tell me, like, yeah, so he's okay, but he needs to stay. We're gonna put like one of those thingies, like right here, so that he gets fed, because he doesn't want to eat, because he went through a lot. I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense, but we have to keep him on observation, and examine him for 12 hours. So we go home, and I start working, and I start doing whatever I can, being so sleep deprived. And then they call at around 4 p.m. and like, he's doing fine, so you can pick him up at 7. Okay, well, let's go, right? So it is, we all four of us go again. Me trying to give, directions to my mom again, but this time she's more calm and she's not having a panic attack or anything like that. And everybody's going through anxiety, but she's okay. But I'm okay. We have this time, and we arrive just in time. It is my brother and I who get out of the car and go ahead and meet him. And the first thing that we see is this big gigantic nurse holding him without a thing in his mouth, without like anything. And he's like this. And we look at him, and they put it on my arms and then on my brother's arms, and he's licking us. And he's so happy. And I'm like, you know what? I'm happy that you're happy, but you gave us the scare of our life, right? And then like I look at the nurse and he's like, yeah, so just he behaved very well. Uh and just take him home and just review him and keep an eye on him and give him some medicine. I'm like, okay, well that makes sense, but is there anything else? And now like he's fine. I'm like, okay, if you say so, then I'll believe you. But that was scary because we thought that he was gonna die on morning, and if we didn't arrive there in time, then and they told us like if you don't arrive in time, then he's fucked. But like thankfully he was okay. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, okay, I understand. Let's go ahead um and take him home. So we arrive at the car, and by the way, the second dog accompanied us on the ride to the hospital to pick up his brother. I don't know why he got on the car, and then we were like, let's take him. So like we had two dogs on the back seat, and I get off the fucking car, and we arrive home, and he starts like running around the house and going to the backyard and everything. And we look after him, and he's like, okay. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I'm very happy that he's okay, but at the same time, I'm like, well, after that scare, I was waiting for something more, but I'm happy at the same time that nothing more happened. So, like, after all of that, he's running around, he's happy, he's playing, he's eating. I'm like, okay, well, that's awesome. Um, I'm like, dude, I think that he just had like a bad trip. Like, one of those American tourists that show up in Costa Rica. You're having like a nice ride, and you're going to the beach or you're going to the mountain, and then you see like this American dude uh take a perk and then like inject himself something, and then like just go insane. And you're like, oh, we know that we're going to the hospital soon, or that we're gonna have to call 911, and then we cannot tell them that what he did because we're gonna go to jail. So we have to stay through this with him, right? Like those typical persons who go way too hard at the party. Then they wake the fuck up the next day. They're like, yeah, I'm just hangover. Like, what? Yeah, I just need my coffee and then I'm fine. Dude, you were rolling around the ground and telling me that I was Satan just like yesterday, and now you're okay. Yeah, I'm okay. All right. Oh, well, that's fine. That's how I'm comparing my dog right now. He licked a frog. He had a bad trip, and then he's like, yeah, dude, I just need a cracker. Like, yeah, that was a hell of a party. I'm like, yeah, dude, it was a hell of a fucking party. That was just insanity, and he's okay now, and he's alright, and I'm happy that it was useful. But like at the same time, it's insane. Damn man, says Dudes and Dragons. Yeah, that's alright. Hi Tahir, by the way. Tell me what's your question? Yeah. Oh my word, it would have been insane. Poor doggo. It must have been so traumatized. I mean, when he was going through it, yeah. But like when he got recovered, he was alright. Like he was like, yeah, it was a hell of a party yesterday, right? Let's go. The card ride reminds me of the popping bubbles game. It was very clever of you to calm her down. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like it was insanity to try and calm her down in a way that could have been compelling to her and that like it made sense. Um, we don't have change. Yeah, that was like I cannot believe that I got confused as a homeless man. from San Jose. But there you go, a homeless man with a dye hair. And your mom sounds like me. I was almost in a car crash and I had to pull off because I was shaking uncontrollably. And I'm happy that that your fur baby is okay now. I'm very happy that he's alright. Honestly, he seems very thankful after that. I hope that he realizes what happened. Why did your dog even lick a frog? That's your question to hear. Well, because like dogs are, crazy like that. They didn't lick it. It was more like bit it. And once again, like I think the most important context to put in right now is that I live in Costa Rica, so frogs are not necessarily uncommon, especially during winter time or when it rains. It is very uncommon for that to happen in the garage. So we were playing with the idea that maybe a really bad neighbor decided to throw the frog to our property, and that's what happened. And then, like, when the dogs and whatever, they see something strange, they go ahead and attack it, because they're like, oh, you're in my territory, so I have to protect my family or myself. So they go ahead and they didn't lick it, like, right? Like, they were like, no, I'm gonna go ahead and bite it because you're a threat to me, right? That's what happened. um Rather than it being like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and lick it because that seems like fun. It's more like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and bite it because you're an animal and I hate you. And more like, well, maybe not hate you, but you're an animal and we don't like you here because you're not, like, like you're not part of our property or you're not part of our territory. So, and they're territorial creatures as well. And they are curious creatures as well. Way to jump up and lead your family to a happy end. Yeah, at the same, yeah, I was feeling very rewarded afterwards, but like, I just felt like something needed to be done and nothing was being done. And I was like, no, like, we need to act and we need to go, right? Like, there's no. And then, like, the Uber called me later and I got charged a fee for calling an Uber and not taking it. But, they had no cars right there and then. So I was like, no, we have to have plan A, plan B. Your neighbors need to get good or something. So shaking my head. Yeah, I don't know if that was it, or again, it isn't uncommon to see a frog, but like, it's just weird to see it in the garage. On the backyard, it would have made some sense, even though it's still pretty fucking hard to see it there. But on the fucking garage, like, there's no reason for a frog to be there at all. So I can only think that maybe that's what happened. Somebody threw it on your territory and they were like, yeah, it's their problem now. And it was a hell of a problem, right? But like, I don't, it's weird. And this is why I type. When I was typing the situation, explaining to you in chat yesterday as to why there was no stream, I was like, what the fuck? I don't understand why there was, one of those creatures on my fucking front yard. But now he's okay. I sent a video of him and I sent it to Discord. So you can go ahead and see that he's fine. But that was today. Dogs are curious creatures. We rushed mine to the vet because his tongue was swollen and he couldn't swallow. Only to find out it was a bee sting. Dude, like, yeah, I like, again, dogs don't really understand danger. Only after they go through it. So it's like, yeah, right, like they don't really understand or cannot comprehend exactly what went down or what is gonna happen when they do something until after they do it. But yeah. But yeah, you throw two frogs in your neighbor's house. First of all, where am I gonna get a frog? Second of all, no. Like, even though it will be kind of like karma to go ahead and deal with it. I know you're kidding, by the way. But like, no, the dogs do not deserve to go through that just because a human being, behaves like an asshole. But like, yeah. That is a hell of an idea, but I refuse to do so. But yeah, that's the story time, I guess, for tonight. Um it was truly insanity, honestly. I was super tired afterward. Revenge, man, revenge, become you. No, that pup's gonna be terrified of frogs now. I mean, like, for the better. Honestly, I will prefer him to be terrified of frogs and never come close to one again. Like, please, I don't want to go through that again. Bro, my neighbors used to throw fruit at my dogs. Evil bullshit. Yeah. See, like, I don't know why people are insane. Like, honestly, I don't know why people are just so weird about it. Like, why do you have to be weird about it? Why don't you just behave like a normal human being, right? Like, don't cause like harm to other people or dogs, right? But yeah, I don't know. It makes no sense to me as to why that happened, but we handled it. But like, thankfully, um, at the end, like my family thanked me and everything. And I was like, yeah, I'm just doing what a normal human being, a decent human being will do. Because if you have the chance to go ahead and save a life, then you take it, right? Or maybe sue them and hire Phoenix Wright as your lawyer. If I have Phoenix Wright, then hell yeah, dude. But like I don't know which one because we have two neighbors. We have one on the right and one on the left. We don't know who did it, right? I wouldn't know what happened, but like, it's super tough, honestly, to figure this out. But you know, I'm just happy that everything is okay and everybody's it's fine. But yeah, that was the story time for today. Um, Another reason to be kind is too much hatred everywhere. Don't need to add more. Exactly. Nobody needs to add more. If you can be kind and if you can legit be the difference that you want to see in the world, and go ahead and take it. Right? Every time that you can, just do it. To them both, simple. And then see if one rats another. Just, yeah, I saw them do it. Yeah, boom. What a story. Thanks, Gramps. Oh man. Yeah, you guys call me fucking grandpa now. I'm a grandpa now. But yeah, that's it for today's story time.